Mhm. Live stream over to Facebook. Mhm. Okay, here we go. Going live over on Facebook. And I think there's a way I can like tag you in these too, but I'm not exactly sure about that yet.
You know more than I do.
And we are live.
How exciting is this?
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome to the Creating Freedom podcast. We are here to talk about what freedom is, how people create it for themselves and for others. And I'm very excited to be joined today by Teri Chilcoat. And Teri brings 15 years of experience working in human resources. Chilcoat, excuse me.
That's
Uh,
okay.
she's an author, a speaker, and the Purpose Factor licensed facilitator, as well as a leadership and empowerment coach. So
Thank you. It's so great to see you, and I feel honored to be part of your podcast.
yeah, of course, of course. Well, I know that you've got this new book coming out, and so I really wanted to have you on in order to talk about what freedom means to you and also how people can find that in the work environment, especially in places that they may be uncomfortable. And like these days, everybody's really looking at like bringing back the power to ourselves. Like, what can we do in
Exactly.
various situations? And with so much, the work environment itself is shifting a lot right now. And there's can be a lot of uncertainty out there for people. And so there's might be a question of like, do I stay in this? How can
Mhm.
I stay in something that may not be ideal, but how can I actually like make it better for myself? Uh,
Yes.
so that's sort of what we'll be talking about here today.
Yes. So as you mentioned, I've been in HR for 15 years. I've been in several roles, mostly in employee relations, coaching and counseling managers and employees. That's really my passion. But one of the things that drove me to write this book was my own personal experience of working in a toxic relationship, which being in HR, you would think we would be immune to that. No, it is anytime there's people involved, you can be subjected to a toxic environment. And that's one of the challenges of being in HR. I've done so many investigations for claims of harassment and toxic relationships and not understanding until I was actually in it how devastating it is to an employee to experience something like that.
Mm,
So that was my um, I guess the genesis of how I decided to write this book was my basically the arch of coming through and seeing that light at the end of the tunnel that there is a way you can come out of it and find your happiness, your power, and your peace. And that's the name of the book is Surviving the Toxic Workplace, a roadmap to power, peace, and happiness. So it was very cathartic to write it. It's
mm,
very raw, it's real. What I went through and my takeaway is for people to understand that, especially employees now, I think we are expecting more from the employer or leadership to provide us our guidelines of how to be a successful in our role, find our happiness is an external
mm,
instead of an internal journey. And this book is really about owning your happiness through taking back your power and
mm,
recognizing how you might be part of the cause of that toxic relationship, which I was, it gutted me to find out that my behavior was no better than anybody else's
mm,
when it came to talking about the manager we didn't like or an employee or just office gossip in general. So that's one of the things that I really did a lot of soul searching and looking at myself because the thing you find is when you do work in a toxic relationship, you also lose your true north, who you are, of your essence.
Mm.
And if you don't have that, it's very easy to get caught up in all of the drama and the negativity in a workplace.
Yeah. I'm hearing like so much of this coming down to communication. And I know
Yeah.
that there are like probably outliers where people are doing things that are like clearly abusive and all of that. But I
Mhm.
wonder how much of a toxic workplace is actually just people not knowing how to like communicate properly.
Yes, especially with younger generations, I think that understanding that the onus is on you for your life, like what you want out of
Mhm.
your life, you have to recognize no one's going to give it to you. You have to go after it. If there's
Mhm.
something you want, you have to have it within you. It's not going to be somebody's going to come up to you and give it to you. And a
Mhm.
perfect example is I was younger, I was working in retail, I'd been there like 2 years, and I thought, I should deserve a promotion. I've been there. I was thought I was a great employee, and the manager ended up promoting somebody else that had been there a fraction of the time. And I went up to her and I said, "Why did I not get that promotion?" And she said, "You didn't ask for it."
Mm.
And I never forgot that. Is you cannot expect someone to give you something at just carte blanche. You have to ask for what you really want because that's the only way anybody's going to know what you want.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of like standing up and saying this is what I need out of a work environment. These are the hours that I am available. This is what I can do per day, that sort of thing. And
Exactly. And
also
then
like
being
how you
clear.
can be
Yeah.
talked, how you're willing to be spoken to. This is like that's a personal thing. That
Mhm.
let's keep that out. Let's just stick to what the facts are, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and that's one of the challenges right now is where's that border? Like, where's the line, the delineation of what's considered professional and what's considered personal? Because those lines are really blurring right now.
Hmm.
Younger generations really want to share everything, and older
Hmm.
generations are like, okay, that's TMI. Like, I don't want to know everything about your personal life to the point where it makes people uncomfortable. So it's a very delicate dance trying to figure out how much do you share that you so people will want to engage with you, but you're not coming in and people are like, oh, here comes, Margaret, she's going to just do a total TMI dump and I just don't want to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to zoom back out for a moment here and ask you what freedom is, and it can be
Mhm.
in general in the context of what it is, or it's the context that we're talking about within the
Yeah.
work environment.
Well, I found my freedom through, because you had asked me like if there's any belief or pattern that I've been living in that
Mhm.
caused me to not live in freedom. And what I was living was I felt my value was strictly based on how hard I worked, my title, how much I made, and how much responsibility I took on.
Yeah.
Well, that's a huge burden to carry because one, you're always looking for external gratification and
Mm.
external happiness. And second, the burden is always putting somebody else before yourself and never taking care of yourself. So I
Mm.
spent majority of my career trying to prove that I was worthy based on my title and my salary. And then when I was laid off the last time, it made me realize like it does not matter how much time and energy I put into this role because this person or organization does not value me as much as I'm giving to them. So I
Mm.
really realized that my worth cannot be tied to how hard I work. It has to be what it's inherent. My worth is inherent just for being a
Mhm.
person. And that is something that's a huge mind shift. If you're a type A, carpe diem, working till, you're dead, all of those
Mhm.
behaviors, it's very hard to overcome them. But that's where power and peace comes from, is finding within you your power and owning who you are instead of external gratification.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a wonderful message. And I'm curious to ask you what you did specifically to change that. Like how was it that you were able to have the awareness to say, like, oh, wow, I'm chasing this external worth. And then what could you actually do to go in and find that inner worth?
Well, unfortunately, I had to hit rock bottom. I literally was suffering from uh, adrenal fatigue, brain
Mhm.
fog, major weight gain, losing my hair, not able to sleep. self-medicating, between caffeine and alcohol.
Mm,
Lots of caffeine in the morning to get going, and then I need alcohol to, wind down at the end of the day. And it just
hmm
came to a crisis that one day I literally was not able to get out of bed. I'm like,
mm,
I can't live like this anymore. And I realized that I was never taking care of myself. Everybody else was my priority. So I
mm,
had to learn that I need to start taking care of my health. I need to start taking care of me, or I'm not going to be around the
mm,
next 5 or 10 years. And that's when I realized I need to change the way I approach my life and putting up boundaries and being very aware of, like, I can't tell everybody I'm available all the time. Like, I
hmm
need to be very firm on what I can and can't do and not take on extra responsibility. I'm not getting paid extra for it. And I need to realize that my
hmm
worth is not tied to the amount of responsibility I take on.
Yeah. So if someone is thinking of that in their own scenario and they're like, I signed up to do this work here and they're continuously doing more and more. How would somebody phrase that to a manager or to even a coworker? What's a good way that
Mhm.
remains like neutral?
That's a great question. I would go back to like what the role and responsibility was, like the job description
Hmm
and what was discussed at the beginning of the job. And then if that has changed dramatically, I would have a conversation with your manager and say, hey, when I started, I was under the impression that I'd be working X amount of hours or this would be my responsibilities, and that seems to have changed.
Mm,
I'm feeling that this is out of balance or what we agreed to. Is there a way that we can have a discussion on the workload, or can we have a discussion on what my assignments are or when I need to come in? And it's once again asking for what you want
mhm,
because a manager is not going to be aware of your pain points unless you're willing to point that out to somebody.
mhm. Yeah, thank you for that. Um, so it's interesting we're talking about this too, as we're moving through whatever is going on in the job market, if for whatever that is. And there's like uncertainty with AI and how that's going to change
Mhm,
things. With you having experience in HR, what do you
mhm.
see as like trends or things to watch for?
Anybody that has any concerns about I would jump on any type of training that you can get and embrace AI. It's not going to go away. And I would utilize it as a tool. It's not something to be fearful of. But if you become more valuable than just as AI evolves, we still need people. We're still going to need particular jobs, but you have to position yourself as somebody that's embracing the technology instead of fearing it. Like I use ChatGPT a lot for helping me write scripts and, with my speech and, content. It's a
Mhm,
great tool, but it's not something that is going to take over what I do or what I write. Because when I write from my heart, and that's something that Chat GPT will never be able to do. And AI is still incapable of, being creating those connections that we need with people. So we will always need people.
mhm. Yeah, we're gonna be here for a while.
But I would definitely embrace it. I mean, take classes. There's stuff on, I mean, YouTube, online. It's if you know anybody, I would just say embrace it and learn to use it to your advantage and not be afraid of it.
Hmm Yeah, absolutely. Anything else in the particular in the job market and tech or anything that you see?
I know it's constantly evolving. I mean, it's exponentially changing so rapidly. I really feel sorry for anybody that's working in tech right now because that is such a challenge to figure out what the next big thing is and what's going to stay, who's going to be going through layoffs. So I would really encourage anyone that's in tech to kind of have like a side hustle, do something on the side that really something they're passionate about, or look at something else that they could maybe pivot to because it is so volatile at this point. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, with AI, that's going to be the biggest sector that's unfortunately will see the biggest changes the most quickly.
Mm-hmm. All right. Potentially grim forecast there for tech sector.
It's just if you want more control about what's happening in your life, you definitely have to take ownership of once again on what do you want to do with your career and you might have to pivot. It might be something, I know a lot of people were in advertising and, internet advertising and print and
Hmm.
TV, and that's changing rapidly too. And you
Hmm.
have to learn to pivot from that too, because that's going to go away too for the number of jobs that we used to have.
Hmm. Yeah. Shifting.
Yes,
Yeah.
everything's always changing.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's really incredible to see the rate the technology is advancing right now.
It's scary if you're not staying on top of it. But I think as it changes, they really, I mean, to think of where we were, just 10 years ago and how far we've come, it's just mind-boggling to me, that having a phone, a device in your hand that does everything that took like 5 or 6 different things that you would have to do. A fax
Mhm.
machine, a computer, an email, a phone, a Mapsco book, you have all this stuff on one device. So it's really exciting. It's just I think it's the mindset that you bring to it.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So mindset and HR. Um, what is a HR's role in within a toxic or within a work environment? How can people leverage HR to to know what they can ask for, to know what is
Yeah.
culturally appropriate, to know, where's HR role in
Yeah. First, I would really have people think twice before you listen to these generalized statements about HR is the bad guy, don't talk to HR. The majority of people that I work with in HR, they really care about people and they really want to do the right thing by people. But
Mm,
unfortunately, sometimes when you work in HR, your hands are tied. And that's not by something that we choose, it's by leadership.
mm,
So one of the things I researched in my book was it's a toxic triangle, is that there's 3 elements that have to be in existence for a toxic environment to be prevalent.
mm,
And one of them is leadership, one is the toxic manager, and the other one is followers. So followers are employees. Those are either they're colluders or they're just trying to survive. The follower that's just going along just to keep their job.
mm,
So if you think of that triangle, HR is in the middle. So HR is trying to navigate these 3 different variables.
mm,
But if leadership does not want to address the problem with the manager and the problem with the followers, then it's very hard to overcome a
mm,
toxic environment. And that's one of the things that I'm a proponent for in my book is taking ownership of that toxic the situation and changing from within yourself,
mm,
recognizing what you can change, what you don't have control over, and then deciding, do I want to stay or do I want to move on
mm,
based on the environment that I'm working in. And that's where someone has to dig deep and figure out how bad is it. But through my book, you can learn to make these decisions from a calm, rational mind instead of just quitting and that because you're so upset about the situation is do some work with yourself internally, find your power, and be at peace for whatever decision you make from a calm, rational mind.
mm. Wonderful. Yeah. What else could you share from your book or otherwise in this area you're talking about?
Yeah, what's really exciting about the book is I was able to take away a lot of stuff I've learned just from training from HR is, different things that we take for granted, like owning who you are, but also knowing I only have control about 90% of what
Mm,
happens around me. The rest of it is only how I respond.
mm,
So if you recognize you don't have control over how your manager reacts, you don't have control over how your coworker is acting, you can only control who you are, then you are owning your basically it's called the circle of influence through Stephen Covey's book, Seven
mhm.
Habits of Highly Effective People.
Sure.
And I've used that a lot with managers and employees when they come complaining to me. So and so is doing this. This girl's tapping too loud on her keyboard.
Mm,
Just crazy stuff. It's like, you know what? All you can do is focus on you and what you can control and
mhm,
what can you own. And when people start looking at, writing down what do I have control over, it gives them their power back and it takes away that negativity that they're allowing in.
Mm,
So it's basically we're taking yourself away from those situations that, like I mentioned, unfortunately, I was just as guilty as being involved in the office gossip. Don't be involved in the office gossip. Don't talk
mhm,
about other people. All it's doing is causing more negativity and it's counterproductive. If you want to live in peace, you can't participate in that.
mhm,
And through my book, I give you different steps on how you can go through assessing where are my, basically, I call it a power leak. So, where is my power leaking? Am I spending a lot of time on social media? Am
mm,
I using social media and, chemical dependency as a coping mechanism? So,
mm,
things to really think about where you can take back your power, but recognizing where have I allowed my power to be leaked away.
mm, mhm. Yeah, and I think that power ties in so much to the self-worth that you were talking about
Exactly.
earlier. Where yeah, I think I was talking with somebody in a men's group here recently, and his job, on paper everything's great, but then the managers, like he feels like he's being taken advantage of,
Hmm.
and that they don't show how that he's truly worth it.
Yeah,
It's like if you don't have that internal worth, then someone else, you're never gonna get it from a boss or
exactly.
anything like that.
And
Um,
that's another thing I talk about is that critical inner voice.
mm,
People will only treat you as well as you treat yourself. And
mhm,
if you're not willing to love yourself first and respect yourself first, then nobody else externally will. So you
mhm,
have to recognize what that critical voice is. Everybody has it. And 80% of the time, if you listen to that tape that's playing over and over, it's
mm,
negative.
mm,
So how do you change that narrative that's running that loop? Because are you allowing somebody to treat you that way because of that critical inner voice? And
mm,
that's something I had to recognize, especially when you're looking for external validation.
mhm,
You're going to be critical 10 times harder on yourself because that person is not giving you the validation that you need, or you feel like you're being taken advantage of. So it's
mhm,
asking yourself, what am I telling myself before I can ask somebody, I feel like you're taking advantage of me?
mm. What am I telling myself? Yeah, could you talk more about any sort of practices or techniques that you have for that inner critic or self-worth here?
Through a lot of questions I ask is like, what do I say to my about myself? Am I critical about my looks? Am I critical about my weight? Am I
Hmm.
critical about my skill sets? My job, where I live, my girlfriend, my family, all of those things that we just automatically just put on repeat. Really consciously being aware, because a lot of times people don't have that self-awareness of what that voice is saying to them.
Mm.
So it's through meditation. I find that that's a great way to find out where
Okay.
that voice is coming from. And a lot of times, if you can you don't even have to, don't feel bad about whatever comes up. It's just an emotion or it's just a thought.
Mm.
You don't need to label it good or bad. You just need to recognize what it is. And the more you recognize what it is and you name it, then it dissipates because
Mm.
you're not giving it the power anymore.
Yeah, so
So it's
non-attachment.
Yes, it's the yin and the yang. Is a lot of people don't want to look at what they call the dark side or the shadow side of ourselves, but that's where the work is done, is that you have to embrace both sides of you. And
Mm.
the shadow self is not a bad person. It's just another part of who you are. And when you embrace that person, perfect example is my entire life, my mom would say, "You're too serious. You're too serious. You're too serious." And
Hmm.
I thought that was something that was bad. But then when I started looking at him like, what does that mean? Does that mean, you know what? That means I'm responsible. That means I'm
Hmm.
somebody dependable. So I
Hmm.
switched the thought process, reframed it
Hmm.
on what that meant. And to me, you know what? That's not a bad thing.
There you go.
And that's as something as simple as someone can do is, how do I reframe what I think is a negative into something positive?
Hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I know you've got something else coming up, so if you would just share with anybody here. Thank you, everybody, for
Sure.
listening here live or on the recording. Yeah, Terry, where can people find you and what do you have coming up?
Yeah. So I'm really excited is that I've also developed a workshop. I'm going to do it online, but also with groups or corporations where it's called BOLD. It's an acronym for B is break the cycle, O is own your truth, L is uh, lead yourself, and D is do the work. And I have an amazing 5 minute reset uh, reclaim your power assessment that I would love to send out to everybody. If you text the word power to 33777, I'll be so excited to send you out this assessment. 5 minutes. Basically, it just gives you some questions to find out where your power is leaking, and then some really great questions to ask yourself. Where can I identify those areas? And give you an affirmation on thinking more positively about yourself. So once again, that is text power to 33777, and I will get you out this amazing 5 minute starter kit.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for that. Cool. All right, I was just checking to see any comments or anything coming through. Right. All right. Well, yeah, Terry, it's been a true pleasure here talking about workplace and taking power back and setting boundaries, all of that beautiful stuff.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we had a chance to talk about this. I think it's very prevalent right now, especially since there seems to be so much turmoil in the workplace. Just to be able to give people the ability to feel like they have some control over what's happening and they're not just a plastic bag flying in the wind. You can own whatever situation you're in and come out stronger.
Absolutely. That's how we create freedom.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you so
Thank you so
much,
much.
Terry. Thank you
Such
to
a
everybody.
pleasure. Mhm. Bye.